Hey, and welcome back to our program. You know, it amazes me how some of these bureaucrats, particularly out of Washington, D.C., can stick their foot in their mouth. The head of the Environmental Protection Agency, a major agency in the nation's capital, a lady named Gina McCarthy, she's under fire, and for good reason. She goes up to Alaska and visits up in Alaska on some project, and some little girl comes up and gives her a special present. She gives her a moose meat, a little can of moose meat. Moose meat is very popular, as is salmon and a number of products that they handle up in Alaska. So she gives her a can of moose meat, and the EPA lady says, well, I could gag on a maggot. It looks like I could gag on a maggot, she says, to the little girl and to the people up that way. I'm sorry that Gina McCarthy can't handle moose meat, but that's what they eat up there. And I'm also surprised at the regulations that take place over things that we like to eat. Now, you know, I come from down in the state of Louisiana, and there's not much we don't eat down here. Something we don't put in a gumbo, in a roux, that we don't make up. I don't care whether it's alligator, nutria. You know what a nutria is? It's a big rat, and there's a major campaign by the Department of Wildlife and Fisheries to offer recipes for nutria. We eat anything like that, and it's pretty tasty, quite frankly. How you cook it is important. I wrote a column a few weeks ago about Governor Jimmy Davis, my longtime friend, who wrote "You Are My Sunshine." And when I wrote the column, I talked about Jimmy Davis's favorite recipe. It was a coon stew. He loved to get a raccoon. He would boil it for about 12 hours, slice it up, and then make a stew out of it all. And I'm not sure I'm anxious to eat a coon stew for my supper this evening, but if that's what he wants to do, then that's all part of the genre of the atmosphere that takes place in my part of the country. And up in Alaska, it's a different kind of thing. They like moose, they get the salmon, they get lots of indicative foods, bear meat up there, a lot of meat that we don't get down where I live, or they get on either east or west coast. I'll tell you another example of meddling in how people eat. We've got a senator down here in Louisiana in the fight of her life and may get beat, named Mary Landrieu. She is paranoid about horse meat. She's become obsessed with saying that people can't eat horse meat. Now, I don't eat horse meat. And most of you don't eat horse meat. In many parts of the world, they do. Did you know in France they have a special society? You know, French food's supposed to be the classic great food. They cook it up like a steak. It's supposed to be very, very tasty. There's a large contingent of fine restaurants in Italy that sell horse meat. And of course, in Russia and all over Asia, it's a very popular dish. And so Landrieu and a few other senators want to prohibit you from having horse meat. That's my choice. That's my freedom of choice. I'm not probably going to pick horse meat, but I may pick some other things, delicacies that I want to eat. She says, well, horses are pets and we shouldn't eat horses. Well, she doesn't have any problem with Donald Duck, and she doesn't have any problem with a variety of Brer Rabbit. She has no problem with Brer Rabbit. Bambi, no problem with Bambi. But when it comes to Mr. Ed, you know, you can't eat horse meat. So we got to use some common sense in how we eat. Like I say, I come from a part of the world that eats about anything. I was giving a speech down in South Louisiana a few years back. Coming home, stopped at a little country store to get something cold to drink. Fellas up on the front porch cooking a gumbo. I could smell it. Smelled pretty good. I said, my friend, what you cooking up there? He says, I got a gumbo. I said, what kind of gumbo? He says, I'm cooking me a hawk gumbo. Kind of rolled my eyes at a hawk gumbo. Number one, I wondered if was that even legal to get a hawk gumbo. I said, or get a hawk. I said, what does that taste like? He said, oh, about like an owl gumbo. So now you know the difference down here. My message is to the head of the EPA, Gina McCarthy, look, get off the backs of people in Alaska, let them eat what they want to eat, and don't come up and insult them. You know, you come from highfalutin, five-star, supposedly French restaurants in Washington, D.C., probably paying with our taxpayers' dollars and eating $100 and $200 meals and big bottles of wine. Okay, don't do it with my tax dollars, but if you want that food, fine. But if we want to eat horse meat, if we want to eat moose, if we want to eat anything like that, get off our backs and let us do it. Gina McCarthy, you and Mary Landrieu need to sit down and have a little talk and get off the backs of those who want our freedom of choice to eat what we want, when we want, and let us do our own thing, right? Hope you agree with me. Be back right after this message.